Maybe you felt it while watering your plants in the evening, or sitting outside with a coffee, enjoying the last warmth of the day. 1 minute, your yard is alive. Birds calling back and forth. That steady hum of insects in the grass you don't even notice anymore because it's always there. And then, without any warning, it just stops. All at once. Not fading. Stopping. For a few minutes, your yard feels like it's holding its breath. And then, somewhere in the distance, a thunder rolls. And you think, of course, a storm. The animals knew. But here's the question almost nobody asks. How did they know? Not 5 minutes before, sometimes hours before, sometimes, as we'll see, more than a day before, from a storm that was still hundreds of miles away and hadn't even fully formed yet. Welcome to Hidden Nature. What you are about to learn will change the way you experience the quiet before every storm for the rest of your life. You're not imagining this. The silence before a storm is one of the most consistently documented phenomena in field ornithology and animal behavior research. And it is far stranger than animals are scared of thunder. Thunder, after all, is loud. It happens close to the storm. But the silence in your yard often begins long before any thunder is audible. Sometimes, before a single cloud is visible on the horizon, something else is being detected. Something you cannot hear, see, or feel. But every bird, insect, and many mammals in your yard can. That something is air pressure. And the story of how animals sense it, and how far in advance, is one of the most remarkable discoveries in modern wildlife biology. Every bird in your yard carries something like a tiny built-in barometer. Not a device, an organ. Scientists call it the paratympanic organ, a small structure near a bird's inner ear that works almost like a pressure gauge, constantly reading the weight of the air around it. A storm system doesn't arrive instantly. Hours before it reaches you, the air pressure in your yard begins to drop, slowly, steadily, invisibly. To you, nothing has changed. To the birds in your trees, the air itself is sending a warning. In 2014, researchers tracking golden-winged warblers in Tennessee recorded something that stunned the ornithology community. Days before a massive tornado outbreak, one that would eventually kill more than 35 people, these small songbirds abandoned their breeding grounds entirely. They flew over 1,500 kilometers south to Florida and Cuba, then returned only after the storm system had passed. The storm at the time they left was still forming, more than 400 kilometers away. The birds left before meteorologists had finalized their forecasts. The leading explanation is infrasound, extremely low-frequency sound waves, far below human hearing, generated by severe storm systems and capable of traveling enormous distances through the atmosphere. Birds appear able to detect these frequencies, the way we might feel a deep bass note in our chest. Your backyard birds are not reacting to weather. They are listening to a sound you will never hear, coming from a storm you cannot yet see. It isn't only birds, and it isn't only animals. Crickets and cicadas, the insects providing the constant background hum of a summer afternoon, have pressure-sensitive organs in their legs and abdomens. As pressure drops, many species reduce or stop their calling entirely. This is part of why the quiet before a storm feels so total. It isn't just the absence of birdsong. It's the absence of the insect layer of sound you didn't even know you were hearing until it's gone. And here's the part that may surprise you most. Your own body may be doing something similar. Millions of people report increased joint pain, headaches, or sinus pressure before storms arrive, often dismissed as folklore. But research published in journals of rheumatology has found measurable correlations between dropping barometric pressure and pain reported by people with arthritis and old injuries. Tissue around joints, particularly previously injured ones, can respond to pressure changes with subtle swelling, affecting nerve endings. Your grandmother's knee was not wrong. It was reading the same invisible signal as the birds in the trees outside her window, just less precisely and a few hours later. But here's where it gets stranger. This isn't only happening in animals, in anything with a nervous system at all. There's an old saying, repeated for generations across farms and gardens. When the leaves show their backs, rain is coming. Most people dismiss it as folklore, a coincidence dressed up as old wisdom. But look closely at a silver maple, a poplar, or a black willow in the hour before a storm, and you'll see something that has nothing to do with wind. The leaves are turning over, not blown, not tossed randomly, turning, pale undersides facing up in a pattern too consistent to be chance. Here's what's actually happening. The stem connecting each leaf to its branch, called a petiole, is extremely sensitive to humidity. As moisture in the air rises ahead of an approaching storm, the petiole absorbs water unevenly. One side expands faster than the other. And the leaf, with no muscle, no nervous system, no ability to think or decide anything at all, physically twists. Some species do this more dramatically than others. Silver maples are famous for it. Their petioles are long and flexible, built almost perfectly to register this shift. Farmers used this as a forecasting tool for longer than weather instruments have existed. But the leaf isn't the only part of the plant responding. Across its surface, a plant is covered in microscopic openings called stomata, the structures it uses to breathe, to exchange gas, to release water into the air. As pressure drops and humidity climbs, many plants begin closing these openings in advance, a form of preparation, conserving water, getting ready for a downpour that hasn't started yet. Think about what that means. A bird senses the storm through an organ near its inner ear. An insect senses it through receptors in its legs. Your own joints respond to the same pressure shift. And now a plant with no eyes, no ears, no brain of any kind, is making the same preparation through a mechanism that has nothing to do with thinking at all. The signal is that fundamental. It doesn't require a nervous system to be received. It only requires the right kind of structure tuned by millions of years to notice. The next time you walk past a tree in the hour before a storm, look at its leaves. If they've turned, you're looking at one of the oldest weather forecasts on Earth. Older than radar, older than barometers, older in some sense than animals themselves. And it isn't just the things growing in your yard. There's something happening in the air around you too. Something you can sense yourself if you know what to notice. And it isn't just the things growing in your yard. There's something happening in the air around you too. Something you can sense yourself if you know what to notice. It comes from geosmin, a compound made by ordinary bacteria living in your soil. Raindrops hitting dry ground release it into the air. Your nose is so sensitive to it that some researchers compare it to a shark detecting a single drop of blood in the ocean. Some scientists believe this goes back to something deeply practical for early humans. The smell of rain meant the smell of water, and water meant survival. And if the storm is severe enough, even the light changes. Sunlight passing through the storm's ice crystals can shift toward an eerie green or yellow, the color many people instinctively fear, often without knowing why, and the air itself becomes electrically different. Storm systems generate massive charge separation, which is why, in the minutes before a storm, some people report their hair standing slightly on end, or static shocks becoming more frequent. Some research suggests certain animals can detect these shifting electric fields directly, adding yet another layer of storm sense that has nothing to do with sound or sight at all. So, the next time your yard goes quiet on a hot afternoon, really pay attention to that moment, not to the silence itself, but to everything happening inside it. A bird is reading an organ near its inner ear, sensing a pressure drop too small for you to ever feel. An insect's legs are detecting the same shift and falling silent. Somewhere, a soil bacterium's chemical signature is about to rise into the air and reach your nose before a single drop has fallen. And somewhere above you, possibly hundreds of kilometers away, a storm is generating a sound too low for human ears, traveling outward in every direction. Your yard isn't holding its breath, it's listening. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed your yard go quiet before a storm? Did you feel it too? In your joints, in the air, in that strange light? I want to hear about it. I read every single one. Subscribe to Hidden Nature. The hidden world is right outside your window. We're just learning to listen.